Oh, likewise. No, it's a pleasure to have you. Really quick before we jump into today's top news, Fernando, for those people in our audience that might not know you yet, can you just give us a quick rundown of your background and how you found your way into Bitcoin?
Yeah, sure. I think the main things is I've always seen disruption pretty closely, as you mentioned in my intro. Being from Argentina, you kind of like exposed to hyperinflation at a super early age. For me personally, that happened at the end of the 80s when I was a kid. Argentina went through a crazy, just a hyperinflationary dumpster fire that led to my mom emigrating to Norway with me. So I essentially grew up outside of my home country and the rest of my family due to hyperinflation. And as I grew up, I came back to Argentina every year to visit my family, and inflation was always a topic of discussion every single time I came back. And for many, many years, going back every single year, that was always a topic. So I was like, what the hell is this thing? Why do people keep talking about it? And why isn't this changing? And obviously, tapping into my public education didn't give me any answers. So I started reading books, discovered Austrian economics and whatever, learned exactly what inflation is. And then back in 2017, when a friend of mine introduced me to Bitcoin, kind of clicked in my head pretty instantly due to the monetary properties and how, Bitcoin at least fixes uh, unhinged printing of money from irresponsible governments. So that's my entryway. And I think I was bullish about Bitcoin back then due to those reasons, and I'm still bullish, even more bullish today for the exact same reasons.
I love to hear it. Yeah, absolutely. Me too, brother. So we're going to get more into you and your background and your exciting news with your company Perception in just a bit. But in the meantime, we're going to go over some of today's top stories and then chat about them. So you just hang tight. We're going to bring you back in just a second. Sound good?
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
All right, let's do it. All right, so Brazil is about to hold its first ever hearing on whether to put nearly $19 billion of its national reserves into Bitcoin. Yeah, the same government that can barely keep soccer fans from rioting is now considering becoming a GigaChad Bitcoin holder. Today, the country's Chamber of Deputies Economic Development Commission will gather experts and officials to debate a bill designed to modernize treasury management, hedge against exchange rate swings, and maybe stop the real from melting like an ice cube at a carnival. Now, the proposal, called RESBIT, would allocate up to $18.6 billion into Bitcoin. Deputy Luis Felipe de Orleans a Bracanganga, that's a hard one, I can't do it, who sounds like a Bond villain but is actually a lawmaker, requested the hearing to get analysis from monetary authorities, government agencies, and financial institutions before moving the bill forward. The legislation itself was introduced by lawmaker Eros Biodini, who pointed out that El Salvador, the United States, China, Dubai, and even the European Union are already playing with Bitcoin and the blockchain. Or in other words, everyone's already at the party and Brazil doesn't want to show up late with warm beer. Brazil already leads Latin America in crypto adoption, ranks 10th globally, and traded $76 billion in crypto last year alone. If RESBIT passes, Brazil joins the short list of countries treating Bitcoin like gold, except with better math and no bars to ship. The road to approval is long, however. After today's hearing, the proposal must crawl through 4 committees, then the chamber, then the Senate, then maybe law. Bureaucracy moves slower than a Bitcoin transaction in 2015, if you haven't noticed. The big picture here, though, is Brazil is already a crypto heavyweight. If this passes, they won't just be leading Latin America, they'll be one of the largest economies on earth to put Bitcoin directly on the national balance sheet. Call it RESBIT, call it history. I like to call it bullish. All right, we're bringing back Fernando. Fernando, Brazil is talking about putting nearly $19 billion into Bitcoin. Do you see this as a genuine strategy shift or more political theater dressed up as policy?
Well, yeah, I wanna wait and see until it actually happens to have a real opinion. Right now, they're just talking, and that's the number one job of any politicians. I think is just talk and pander to different audiences. But if they do it, I love it. As an Argentinian, I don't really like to see Brazil winning, but they've been struggling pretty hard on the soccer, and so I mean, at least they can have this W for now. And another thing that I'm super happy about is just, the fact, you mentioned that adoption by just regular people in Brazil is super high, is one of the highest in Latin America. So they front ran their entire, government years. Happy for Brazil that, a lot of people, they need to see these type of news for, Bitcoin to be more mainstream accepted. The more people that get into Bitcoin in countries like Brazil, the rest of Latin America, the rest of the global South, I mean, the better. The only thing is, what drives me a little bit crazy is the fact that the people who need it the most are always the least financially illiterate, right? So you see the global South having the best reasons to get into Bitcoin, but they're always late. There's always the more the US, Europe, you got a lot of like just developed countries that are getting in first and getting there early, and these global South countries are getting in a little bit late. But hey, better late than never, and I'm happy for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It does seem like the people that need it most oftentimes are unfortunately front ran by the people that are more capable, which are these more developed nations, even though they don't need it the same way as, a lot of people in South America does, Brazil, Argentina, as you know. So yeah, it's the unfortunate reality of things, but I'm glad to hear that at least as an Argentinian, you're okay with Brazil doing a little better. You guys got messy. I think you guys won at this point, right? Neymar's, he's no good. He's all show.
Yeah, there's struggling.
But back on topic here, Fernando. If Brazil were to follow through with this, how much do you think this would change the global narrative around sovereign Bitcoin adoption compared to El Salvador's move that just happened a few years back?
I think it's I like to think of adoption just in general being bottom up and not top down. So, but unfortunately, and this goes for any country, I think humans are just wired to just follow authorities and wait for permission. Whether it be physical permission or just permission in the sense of, okay, it's accepted by the higher powers, therefore I'm changing my mind about it. And Brazil is just no different than any other country. We're all humans at the end of the day, right? So a lot of people, unfortunately, will need to wait for these type of news to happen, and I think it will spearhead, adoption broadly, at least in a narrative sense, that Bitcoin is more accepted and talked about freely, and not necessarily, people being gaslit to think that Bitcoin is something that it's not. The only thing is it's not enough Bitcoin for everybody in this world. So I think it's going to rejig a lot of solutions in terms of what custody is going to look like, how actually holding Bitcoin or getting exposure to Bitcoin is going to look like. A lot of people are mad at paper Bitcoin this summer. I think this is only going to extend into different solutions that try to cater to the ever increasing demand. But yeah, it's 21 million, man. There's really nothing else you can do. You can't print more Bitcoin, so you got to figure out a way to cater to the ever increasing demand. And things is just gonna happen. What you already see in the West is gonna happen in Brazil and other countries that will come a little bit later into the realm.
Yeah, it really seems just a matter of when and not if at that point. I mean, number go up. We've seen it happen pretty consistently for 16 years, so I don't think anything's stopping this train anytime soon. Hang tight, because this next story is actually about your home country, so I'm excited to chat with you about it. So hang tight there for a sec, because Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires, just announced it will start accepting cryptocurrency for local taxes. Yeah, you can now pay your property tax, register your car, or even cover your traffic tickets with Bitcoin instead of pesos. Which makes sense since pesos evaporate faster than an ice cube in a sweat lodge. The city government, led by Jorge Macri, says the goal is to make Argentina's capital a global crypto hub, which is ambitious, but when your national currency is basically Jeffrey bucks, Bitcoin starts looking like a lifeboat. Now, this move isn't just about hype either. The city wants to cut bureaucracy, make it easier for taxpayers to actually comply, and lure in new businesses that live and breathe crypto. According to official data, Buenos Aires has around 10 million crypto accounts, which adds up to about 22% of all such accounts in Latin America. Or in other words, people here already use crypto more than their own money. The policy goes beyond taxes. Citizens and companies will also be able to use crypto for things like getting a driver's license or paying fines. Meanwhile, the city rolled out a separate package of measures to make operating with crypto easier for businesses, framing it as part of a modern, agile, and intelligent state, which is a bold phrase for a government that still runs most of its paperwork on carbon copies. Now, Jorge Macri said the goal is to make Buenos Aires friendlier to the crypto world every day, and that they want talent to grow, innovate, and lead without obstacles. Now, the capital itself is joining the parade and raising the stakes. Of course, Argentina's political class has its own awkward crypto history. Remember Javier Milei's whole Libra coin scandal? Milei launched it as a new national digital currency to grow the economy. Investors piled on in, market cap soared to $4.5 billion, and then scandal hit. Reports surfaced linking Libra to online scams. Milei panicked, deleted his posts, and the coin crashed almost overnight, stranding over 40,000 investors. So while Argentina's leaders have a spotty track record with crypto, Buenos Aires' new move is different. This isn't about pumping a meme coin. This is the capital city formally integrating Bitcoin and friends into its tax system. We're bringing Fernando back. Fernando, Buenos Aires will let people pay taxes and fines in Bitcoin. How significant is it that one of Latin America's biggest cities is formally integrating Bitcoin into its bureaucracy?
Listen, the government wants your Bitcoin. Don't give it to them. If they enable paying taxes or whatever, pay them back in the worthless peso that they have circulated and distributed themselves. Don't give them your Bitcoin. Give back the worthless piece of garbage that they have created. Give it right back to them. This is something that is extremely, I mean, it's cool. It's a cool headline like, oh my God, you can pay McDonald's in El Salvador with Bitcoin. You can pay taxes with Bitcoin. Fine. But they want you to part ways with your Bitcoin. Don't do it. Pay it in pesos and just keep it moving. It's insane how egregious this is because they know that so many people in Argentina, like you said, have adopted Tether, have adopted Bitcoin like crazy. You mentioned a percentage, I can't remember. I think it was 20% or something like that. It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And obviously they will understand like, hey, there's a lot of money to be gotten here. And this is how politicians are thinking. So no, don't do it. It's a cool headline, but keep the Bitcoin to yourself. Pay taxes, pay all the other stuff that is worthless in the worthless currency that they have created themselves. And that's it. Let that be the lesson.